Welcome back to the channel. My name is Brad. This week we're going to talk about XDTE, RDTE, and QDTE. And at the end, are they maturing? Finally, are they growing up? Are they putting their big boy pants on instead of, I don't know, maybe over-exaggerating incomes or trying to shoot for incomes that end up hurting us? And we'll talk about that and show you some graphs of what I'm talking about. So, how did Brad do this week? Well, Brad did awesome. $448. I'm not going to complain about $448 because if you times that by 4 for the month, that's still good money for $80,000. I mean, remember, I was only going to get $600 a month on $150,000. $448 a week on $80,000 is really a good sign. XDTE this week is going to pay 22.8 cents. That's 22.7% this afternoon at this afternoon's price. QDTE, 21.7 cents. That's 26.7 at the current price of today. And RDTE and RDTE, we're just going to go, they're overpaying. That is not signs of maturity. We'll just go ahead and say that. They didn't make that kind of revenue. They're forecasting out. I don't know what they're doing. It's 45%. That's not realistic. I think in the future, we're going to see these 20 percentiles and we're going to be happy with them. But hey, I'm not going to complain. They're going to pay me 45%. I'll take the money. I just know that it's not going to last in the long run. Let's talk about some calls. QDTE. All right, here we go. Slippage. First time in 2 weeks that we saw slippage. And what's slippage? So the close price went through the strike price by 0.2%. We will never gain that back. It's gone. It'll never come back ever again. You're going to get a distribution that's going to make up for that, but that's where that slippage comes in. Now, did we get gains through the day? Yeah, but it went through the strike. And I'm not going to complain at all because I've written calls before and it happens. It's a natural occurrence. But just wanted you to know that, hey, this is the first time in 2 weeks that we've seen this, which is a good sign, which is step one towards being a mature grown-up instead of writing too close. And maybe they were a little too close with that 0.3 out of the money. Maybe they'll learn. So XDTE, right, slippage again, 0.39 on Monday. Again, they wrote it at 0.24 right next to the money, trying to get that bigger distribution. I'm just pointing out the facts. You went for $8 instead of $5, and that kind of burnt them, did it not? RDTE, same thing. The market reversed on Monday. They got caught out a little bit, but okay. I'm fine with it. Again, right now appears RDTE's doing very well with the amount of shares. Can't complain about that at all. The share count seems to be steady. We're looking at revenue per shares. Everything seems to be going on track. And as long as I don't see a whole lot of slippage day after day, once every 2 weeks, in my book, is nothing. It's when we see it 2 or 3 times a week, that's a warning sign. So, are these funds becoming mature? That's a good question. And the reason I brought this up is share count. If you've noticed on all the information so far, share count, or the amount of contracts that they're writing per day, hasn't gone up. And it hasn't gone up very dramatically recently. So how does this actually look like over time? That's the question. Let's start with QDTE and look at where the contract started and how many contracts they're writing today. If I date it back to just over a month ago, we were writing right over 100 contracts. Now we're writing up to 222 contracts a day. Double the amount of contracts. That's a sign of slowing down and we're becoming mature. because that line is becoming flat. We like that. Don't mind it going up, but I want it to go up slowly. People aren't jumping in, people aren't jumping out. It's a nice, slow curve up and right is what we like to see. Because if it starts to go down to the right, then we have to start worrying about, is the fund actually a true fund that we want to stay in, or is it going to die? I like up and to the right, and I like to see it grow slowly over time. And I'll be very happy with it. I'm sure Roundhill will be happy with it. But going through that whole growth spurt, growing so quickly, writing all those additional contracts, probably took a toll on payments. But hey, I'm happy with it if they're happy with it. XDTE was the same thing. They were running right around 90 contracts a day. They're writing 276 contracts a day now. That was a lot of growth in a very short period of time. I still like to see the funds grow. Definitely want to see the funds grow. But this is starting to show the signs of maturity and growing up. And I like that. I like the growing up of not trying to over-exaggerate on their calls and getting the most premium that day. Give us a little safety on the upside. Hey, and if they're in the mid-20s, all honesty, they might make the list. Just saying. It's when they're up in the 25 and 30%, knowing that we're having a lot more slippers than we should, then I didn't like that. I really did not like that. What I'm seeing now, I'm starting to like. And hey, we're going to continue to track this twice a week and give you the data so you can make your own decisions on these funds. Now, RDTE is still growing. We'll just throw it out. Hey, it's a new fund. 6 months from now, it might be mature, and you might start seeing these contracts slow down, and it's going to pan out to a 30% payer instead of a 40% payer, and everybody be happy. Trust me, I'm sitting here going mid-20s, only hit the strike price once in 2 weeks. Nothing to complain about. As a matter of fact, I might reconsider, these funds in the future. But holding on to them, going to buy my one share tomorrow on, ex-dividend date, because ex-dividend dates always seems to be the best day to get in. And we'll just continue to let it grow. And eventually I'll probably sell out, but why would I do that now? At what they're paying, $1,600 a month on $80,000. Can't complain about that. If my living expenses is $3,000 a month, half of my living expenses comes off of $80,000. Now, granted, I only want to take 8%. I know that. But I'm sitting back going, let these fund all those other funds and let it ride out, because it's been very stable here recently, and I like that. And the market's going up and down. You have the longshoremen going on strike. That's going to be short-lived. They can talk a large game. They can shut us down for a while, but eventually the government's going to step in. They won't let the average American get totally destroyed because of this. Now, as this goes for Brad, as long as everybody's negotiating fairly, there's no problem with this. When they step away from the table is when we start to have an issue. And that's when the government needs to step in. But if they're both sitting at the table, just because they're not agreeing, that's fine. Let them go on strike and let them work it out. But as soon as somebody steps away from the table and is not negotiating fairly, the government has to step in. And if they don't, then we need a change in government. But right now, it seems that everybody's at the table. So until next time, God bless.